Hello everybody and welcome to my very first video for Soaperwoman. My name is Lisa Myers and I make trace evidence soaps, and I am going to start my very first video, so you're going to have to hang in there with me. And it's going to be a cow's milk soap, and I use the room temp method, so I don't worry about a temperature gun, which I hate, and it takes so long to make soap that way. So I have converted all my recipes that they will work with the room temperature method, which I will be showing you. And you never, ever, ever have to use your temperature gauge again. Yay! And you also don't have to wait 20-30 minutes for your lye to cool down. The advantage to this is that most soaps you can make within 20 or 30 minutes. And so it's very quick. You do have to have your solid oils and your liquid oils in two different containers. And yep, I'll show you how all this works. Right now I am going to mix the lye up, and that'll be the first step in most soap making. So I have my water already pre-measured, and of course I use a digital scale to measure the quantities. And right now I have the water already measured, but I'm going to put in the lye, so I'm going to sit it back on the calc and hit the 0 and put the lye in, and you'll see how that works. Okay. Sorry, I forgot to bring the lye over. As you can see, I have a brand new container of lye. I like to order online, but you can go to your hardware stores and get drain cleaner, but make sure it's 100% lye. Most drain cleaners are not 100% lye, and you don't want any other kind of chemicals in your soap. Lye is very dangerous, as everybody will tell you, so you need to wear gloves, a mask, and if you have a vent, which I have it under an oven in a vent, so I don't need to wear a mask. And I like to pour the lye right in the water because lye is very staticky and the little lye beads will go flying everywhere. So I prefer to pour it directly into the water, but you have to be careful and not overpour because you want it the right amount. I need, looks like 6.7 ounces of lye for this recipe. So I'm going to pour it in right now. And like I said, you want to be really careful. I like doing this on a black stove because I can see if any of the lye beads have bounced around. You don't want to get it on your skin. It will leave holes in your skin, and it hurts a lot. You should always have vinegar handy, so if you do get some on your skin, don't use water. That'll just embed it more. You want to use vinegar to neutralize it. Okay, and see, by doing it with this method, there was no static, and I know a lot of you on some of the soaping sites complain about how there's so much static in lye, but if you pour it directly into the water, there won't be. Then you have to stir it till it's clear, or clear-ish. Not as important with the room temperature method because you're going to do so much stirring to melt the solid oils that the lye will all be dissolved. But you want to get it where you can see the spoon in the lye. I'm doing my first video, so I'm always checking to make sure I'm in screen. That wouldn't be very good. And you hear so many horror stories. This is not a beginner video, so definitely check some beginner video if you haven't done soaping before, to give you all the instructions on safety with soaping. Really, the lye is the only thing that's dangerous. Everything else is basically food. You could pretty much eat your soap if it didn't have lye in it. Okay, you see this is clear enough I can see the spoon. So I will transfer my lye to my solid oils. And this will melt the oils and also will cool the oils so they'll be at an acceptable temperature, so you won't have to sit around and wait for everything to be, basically everything becomes room temperature. And you can see, depending on your oils, it melts really quickly. Shea butter and cocoa butter take longer to melt, so you want to cut them up in smaller chunks when you put this in here, because if it takes too long to melt, the lye will cool down too fast and it won't dissolve. So, but I have soy wax in here, palm oil, coconut oil. They all melt very quickly. And you will get tennis elbow and really muscular wrists. So I recommend stirring with both arms so you don't look like Popeye. I'm probably going to get carpal tunnel in one of my wrists. I'm prone to getting wrist issues, or joint issues. And you can see this looks kind of thick and you think, oh, it's getting too thick, but when you put the liquid oils in it, it'll thin out again. Now this soap I'm not putting any scent into, so it's a pretty mild basic soap. And you can see everything is melting very fast. And I didn't have to sit and wait 20 minutes for my lye to cool down. And as you've seen, I haven't checked any temperatures. I do have a really large chunk of shea butter though that you can cut small enough. Now if you have little floaters at the top, little bits of oils that haven't melted, that's okay. Usually by the time you put your stick blender in, that'll all incorporate. The boring part. I'll probably end up cutting some of the stirring out of the video. Maybe not. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. Okay, we're almost done here. Alright, now we put in the liquid oils, and this has castor oil in it, and castor oil always settles to the bottom, so you need to use a spatula to get the oil. You'll be surprised how much oil is left in the bottom of the bowl. Let me see if I do this, you'll see it's like a whole bunch. All of that is stuck at the bottom. And some people are really obsessive about cleaning their bowls out. I'm not. I'm not very A personality that way. Okay. Now we have our liquid oils in, which in the case of this is castor oil. What other oils do I have in here? Oh, olive oil. I think that's the only two oils I had in this. Yeah, in this recipe. Okay, now I'll get my stick blender. I have to move this over where I will reach. Coming to trace, that's there's a lot of stories about that. Some people like to have their soaps not solidify really fast because they're doing designs or colors. So trace can be very mild. Some people don't trace at all, they just mix it. And then some people like a really thick trace, like if you're making high tops and piping. So really it's just your own decision. There's whole videos on trace, and I just kind of go with it, whatever looks right, depending on what I'm doing. Oh, I know, this also has canola oil in it. If you have a high olive oil batter, it'll trace faster. If you have a higher canola oil, vegetable oil, soy oil, it'll trace slower. Corn oil really traces slow. So if you want a long pour, then having more canola oil is a really good addition. Trying to make sure I got all those chunks, but it looked like I did. Now again, you notice I didn't check the temperature of anything. I didn't have to in room temperature. This is a very light trace right now. It's absolutely suitable for pouring right now. But also, if you're going to add a lot of additives, you don't want to come to a full trace. You want to add all the stuff and then come to trace. Now I'm adding my milks. There's coconut milk, whole milk, and something else. Coconut milk, whole milk, and I don't remember what else I put in here. No, well anyway, there's the milk. Also, on your containers, make sure you have a high temperature container. It doesn't mean it has to be expensive, but make sure it goes to at least 140 degrees, I think. Because your lye can get up to over 200. Of course, it'll cool off with inside stuff, so your cups will melt. Using the leftover coconut oil and palm oil containers, they're high temp because they pour them in at a high temperature, so they're good to save for containers. And you notice the milk is thickening this up really fast. So I'm going to have to move here. Just like when you make whipped cream and whatever, it thickens up fast, it'll do that in the soap too. Now I'm adding an additive. I'm adding a coconut, actual dried coconut. This recipe called for a lot. If your batter is getting too thick, don't use the emulsion blender. Just hand mix it. Otherwise, it'll get so thick you won't be able to use it. I am fond of thick traces, so I don't worry about it. And the coconut in this is a exfoliant. Okay, so now we're going to pour. It's that simple. Best homemade soap thing ever. Paper cartons. Cut off the top, pour it in. You don't have to specially coat it or anything because it's wax inside. And all you do once it's dry is you just peel off the container. It makes a lot of soap. So this is a great homemade, if you're not doing a fancy soap with fancy colors and all kinds of things, this is a really inexpensive beginner, and you'll see it holds a lot of the soap batter. Ta-da! And then always have some spare molds handy for the what's called overpour. You don't know what to do with this leftover stuff. So I always have something handy, making sure you get all of the soap out. Every ounce you get out of your container is an ounce you can sell. So don't waste any of it. And if you have leftover and you put it in a container like this, there's still a lot of soap room left. You can just let this harden, and then when you make your next soap, you can pour it on top of it and make a two-colored soap. It doesn't matter that that's hard. The other soap will mix in, will adhere to it. And then, so that's what I'm going to do with this. So I'm just wait and put another soap on top of it. But that is the end of my very first video. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please check the links for my website where you can see all my different soaps I've made. And see you next time.